Good afternoon, everyone. We have for our sixth episode of the speaker series. It's an exciting time to talk about a very special company, Apollo Automobil. And here we have Jakub Julowski, the lead CAD designer of Apollo, and we have Joan Wong, the chief designer of Apollo, so kindly joining us from the UK to talk about cars, design, and the art of what they are creating. So we thank you guys so much for joining us so late at night again, like all the other great people who have been with us. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, and hello everyone listening in.
Everyone.
Yeah, this is fun. You know, this as we've continued to talk about cars, I've been almost most excited to talk about Apollo, because these cars, if you've seen them in person, they are just beyond the norm of what a car is. This is very soulful, it's very artful, it's radical, it's wild, it's mechanical, and we'll talk about that today. So out of all the people we've had in our speaker series, you guys are our youngest gents in the mix, and I think there's something to say about this kind of next generation group of artists coming in to design, you know, the cars of today. So how does it feel to guys to be, you know, doing what you love? And, you know, technically we're pretty young. We're about the same age.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Yeah, it's surreal, mostly surreal, and yeah, dream come true. To be honest, I couldn't have worked with anyone else, you know, better than Jacob. You know, we had a long history together.
Yeah, I don't feel so young anymore. I thought when we were starting the Apollo project, I felt like we were young and energized, and it was so much work.
Yeah, that's like 6 years ago. Think about it.
Yeah, you know, it was such an intensive project. After the project, I feel like I'm not young anymore, but I guess we're still there. Yeah, 30.
Well, it's fascinating. So how did you guys, you know, get to meet is my first kind of question. You're both from different places. You guys get to meet, I imagine, in school. Is that how it came about?
Pretty much. Yeah. I actually, you know, I failed a year at university. So, you know, I was a bit rebellious and everything back in the day. But then, you know, if it wasn't for that, I would have never met Jacob, because he came in.
Yeah.
You came in a year later. Yeah.
And I just remember the competition straight away with Joe. I guess because he came back from that year. You know, we were all kind of happy first year. Everybody was, you know, wow, yeah, we're going to be designers. And then that might also give you an idea about the way Joe thinks. You know, one of the kind of first group meetings, he was like, I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to design, and I'm going to get through this, and I'm going to get into the industry. You know, that motivation, it was immediately looking beyond university, and like, I will be doing some serious projects. What's here is just temporary. Yeah, that mentality and that competition with everyone.
That's pretty fascinating that you guys get to meet, and obviously where you are today, I think with hard work and passion and determination, especially Joe for you, it shows you that sometimes you learned on your own and you made it happen. And but it's all about the connections that you make at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, I was so you know, fascinated by the idea of being a car designer ever since I was a kid. But, you know, nothing was going to really stop me or get in my way into really just doing what I wanted to do, and I just focused on that goal and put in the work in, and then yeah, over time it manifested, and you know, I was exposed to a lot of amazing people, luckily.
You were at McLaren before you finished university, right?
Yeah, so I spent some time with Frank. I'm sure very familiar with Frank. And yeah, you know, he gave me a beating, taught me a lot of things about design, and you know, thrown me straight in the deep end, and you know, had me hacking away at clay models, and you know, telling me about the reflections and all this kind of stuff, teaching me everything he could with my time there. So yeah, that was an extraordinary experience at McLaren.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I guess in life, you know, to have a mentor is pretty key. And It's amazing that you got an opportunity to work at the very early stages of McLaren Automotive when they were technically still building their whole profile. And I imagine you worked perhaps with Robert Melville as well. Was he?
Yes,
Was he working?
yeah, Rob. Yeah, he was the senior at the time, and also Rob. He gave me a lot of his time. We spent a lot of time also together outside of the studio. As buddies, and we just did a lot of proactive things. Hit the pub, those kind of things. So yeah, there were good memories, and the people there are really, really motivated, really talented. McLaren at the time was a very small brand, and challenging people like Ferrari was a huge undertaking. When they came out with the P1, that really kind of, when I saw the P1, I thought, wow, I've never seen anything like this. And thankfully, when I started there, they just finished it. So Frank was like, oh, lunchtime, let's go to the studio and let's see the real thing. So luckily I was one of the very first people to seeing the car fully built at the time. Which just blew me away, that experience then, and that kind of reignited that magic again, and kind of reminded me where I wanted to be, where I needed to be after that. So.
Was this the first time perhaps you were, in design, where, Frank's and I think that the two of you both share inspiration from maybe animals or shapes. Did you gain any inspiration for that when you were working with the McLaren or at that point?
Yeah, sure. When I first started, I was in the studio, and then the first thing I noticed is just the walls were covered in things like sharks and rays and animals and birds and things like that. And I thought, wow, this is amazing, because I spent a lot of my childhood, not being outdoors. I stayed a lot of my time was spent indoors. So I watched a lot of things like National Geographic channels, Discovery Channel, Natural History Channel. So I learned a lot about the natural and the organic world, and that kind of made me appreciate those forms and those animals a lot more, understanding the capabilities and how they adapted to their environment. So when I went into McLaren, I thought, wow, this is like almost like a match made in heaven. I just understood straight away what the design language was about, and I had all this knowledge about this topics, and to be able to transfer this into car design was really a dream come true.
That's fascinating. I remember hearing this story from Frank that he went out and on a company credit card and he bought I think a very expensive fish, and he had it stuffed and delivered to McLaren. And I don't think the company was super excited that he went out and spent a fortune on a fish.
This thing was huge, it was on the wall, and it was gigantic, and it was painted at the time in this in the F1 color. So when they had the chrome and the red color scheme with Vodafone and Mercedes. That was to see this thing stuffed and the solid on the wall. It was mind blowing. Frank is pretty crazy.
Yeah, that's fun. I find it very interesting in today's age. Cars are designed with technology more. Cars used to be designed with pen and paper. Now you're probably perhaps doing the same, but in a digital form. Questions, I guess, for the two of you guys, and maybe Jakob, you're basically working in synchronization with Joe. You guys obviously read each other's minds in a sense, or have to. If you guys can talk a little bit, how do you guys work together? Because the two of you are very integral in the way that you work together as a team to basically create these shapes together.
Yeah, there's a few things. So my role is to be the person between Joe, which is the raw design energy, the sketches, the art, and the engineers. And so I'm kind of crushed in between the two. I'm developing the first kind of 3D shapes that will become the actual car later. So that's challenging, and the tools are key. I mean, even going back to university, I guess when we graduated about 6 years ago, it would not be possible to work the way we work now 6 years ago. Transfer the files, the software, the tools, the hardware just didn't exist. So it's that evolution in also pushed by automotive. It's crazy. It's crazy how fast the tools are developing, how high quality of work we can do in such a kind of small, tight teams on such extreme projects like Apollo. What do you think, Joe?
Yeah, I guess our dynamic into the development stages is very critical. Obviously, Frank's always taught me that that the product, the car, the physical thing, and what it represents for the brand is the first thing that people see. So it's a design. It's always the number one factor in any kind of product related or in this segment anyway. So working with Jacob, we had to we didn't have a huge budget for design, so we had to really invest in ourselves into how do we be as proactive as possible while saving as much time as possible and to be able to deliver as much as possible. So at the time I was really adamant in that we completely forget what we learned and just step into this digital realm as quick as we can, because I could see it coming. I could see, wow, as technology advances, it's only going to advance, and that's it. And the quicker we get on this, the better it's going to be. So we then both worked really intensively to figure out what's the best way. I was spending thousands of pounds buying different machines and software and iPads and all that kind of stuff, just to see how this can integrate in my life. Can I take it with me? Because we were pretty remote back then. We worked really remotely as well. So now everyone's stuck in this coronavirus situation, but for us it's really normal. This is how we have been doing it ever since. So to be able to optimize that and take that workflow with you, it was a very essential part of our team, kind of the design development, and to be able to kind of execute on the spot wherever you are in the world. So
I think we were at the beginning of the real beginning of like fully digital design team, where we could be anywhere in the world and keep the project going and deliver that project very quickly to super high quality and quick decision making, no big meetings, very kind of focused design and fully digital. I guess it's interesting how it goes. And also I remember when I started university, I was still using paints. Like brushes, paints on paper, and 2 years after university, we were finishing the IE. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's cool to see the transition. It's happening so quickly, and I guess you have to also give a lot of respect to those who, like a Gandini or any of the auto designers that were, having to use different methodology. But it's fun that you guys are kind of in that transitional point.
I can't even imagine the old guys, like doing this in the 60s. Respect, but we have to keep pushing.
We do, yeah.
Yeah, I think you guys were obviously challenged to put something together. I think it's also important to talk why we're even here, and some of that inspiration, obviously, in the dream was that of Norman Choi, who the man behind the project. I imagine this vision he has. He's a car guy. He wants something powerful, mechanical, soulful, to dream up the Apollo IE. So shout out to Norman if you're listening. But did you guys sit down and kind of say, this is what I want, or, can you build me something based on GT1? Where did even the inspiration come up with the Apollo IE, the Intensa Emozione?
Yeah, at the time it was crazy how we met. Actually, we met on an internet forum at the time. So, this guy comes, messages me, and hey, I like what you do. Do you wanna design for this company that I just got? I went, okay, what is it? It's a company. I thought, wow, okay, that's sounds pretty serious. So, initially I didn't believe him. I was thought, this is a joker. He's trying to get free work, and he continued conversation with me. He sent me loads of multiple emails, saying that this is serious. That love to have me on board and all this stuff. So yeah, eventually, I came onto the Apollo program, and then that's when I thought, oh damn, okay, I need a team. So then I rang Jacob. So Jacob at the time was at Citroen, DS, Advanced Design. So yeah, throughout time, then Jacob came on board. But with Norman, I mean, at the very beginning, we tried to do something with the Gumpert platform. So we developed, or we designed the thing called the Apollo Arrow, and that was debuted at a 2016 Geneva Motor Show. And for a startup brand and a brand that's relatively unknown, let's say, to the mainstream, it's super challenging to even be recognized. But the Arrow did a really good job into bringing that brand into kind of the awareness of everybody. People were talking about it, was trending at the time. And then, completely revised the strategy for what we wanted to do. We wanted a carbon monocoque, we wanted a crazy engine, everything was carbon, and an all-out kind of extreme hypercar. So I thought, okay, sounds good. So, we were then discussing how do we elevate what was the Apollo Arrow into something of an IE? How do we then really solidify the power of this brand and what it's capable of with design? And that's when, the IE was kind of born. We went through several stages of sketches and proposals. And eventually, Norman was like, oh yeah, I love it. This is the one. And yeah, and then we pursued the IE. And yeah, when it came out, it kind of, again, shook the world. And then it created several trends with the way it was styled. It was so extreme at the time. This was talking about 4 years ago now. In the industry, there was really nothing really like it at the time. And I think what we appreciate was we were able to bring that OEM level of fidelity in terms of its design and the way it's put together, that it doesn't look like something that's built in a shed. It really looks like something that was properly designed, properly engineered, and rightfully it is. And Norman was always the one pushing for those ideas and to have carbon, to have Alcantara, to have all the good stuff, and he made that investment to ensuring that all this was possible. So huge respect to Norman.
Yeah, I remember. I could not believe. I remember your first meeting with Norman, and I just could not believe it. It seemed like you guys knew each other for years. Like immediately from the first handshake, like total sync, like finishing each other's sentences. Exactly the same vision of what they like, where they want to go, and but now also from thinking about this more like the perspective of the projects and the years on the project. Norman is more of a, I expected like a CEO, like a business guy. He, for me, mostly was like a patron of art or design. It's fully focused, fully supportive, and the trust he gave Joe. And you have to remember, Joe had to create a new brand, first model of a brand new brand of bringing something new without a ton of legacy, which some of the other older brands can kind of rest on. It's much easier, and so you either make it or break it. And so I think for a designer, they say often that blank sheet of paper is the best project, but it's also the scariest, because what do? There's nothing. You have to create something that's going to last, and that people will love straight away. You only have one hit, can't miss. It's crazy challenge.
There is definitely a tremendous pressure in the way cars look in general. As we look through social media and all the other kind of social platforms, it's the first thing that people say, oh, it looks like this, it looks like that, right? So that again emphasizes just how important the way the car has to look beyond anything else. Initially, able to establish the IE and the brand was it was so daring at the time. We had to take that risk. I was really adamant that no, it has to be extreme. It has to be something that people can recognize or relate with it straight away with Apollo and what Apollo was about. And if we went more of the tamer, more the generic direction, it would have been just like anything else, and it would have been lost throughout time. And we still continue in this traction with the deliveries of cars now, and wherever we go with the Apollo IE, it just draws these huge crowds, and it speaks for itself now. And,
yeah. I love it that when we first showed it and still get these opinions, people tend to compare it more to animal or like a feeling or something really beyond automotive. They don't compare it to like other brands or other models. I think that's very successful. I'm really happy about this, that people like respond to it in like a different viral way, almost like to an animal more than to an automotive world.
Well, that's why we nicknamed them dragons, because it's what kind of people saw them as these mythological beings as opposed to a car or something. It was an extension of something else that was like more of a myth.
And that was also that Norman's trust, right? And that vision, like he somehow felt that Joe will deliver. Like there was no doubt in Norman. It's like just really a patron. It's unbelievable.
Well, how does it? One also to the audience listening, we encourage questions if you have any. Please simply just go into the questions area and type it in. We'll see them and hopefully address them later. So how does it feel actually to see your work, at a car show? I mean, to see it on paper and then to see it live and see people smile and go nuts. I mean, does it feel surreal? Does it always feel good? Does it ever get old?
Sometimes sometimes because what we do, as designers also, we're always trying to think of, okay, what's next? What do we do? We can't rest for some reason. It feels almost, organic and unnatural to be satisfied with what we've done. And, so in my mind, I was always thinking, okay, what's the next thing, in my mind always. But, there are times when we have spent time together as a team at shows, just feeding off the vibe and the response from people who get to see this, and the kids that finally get to see it beyond something like Forza. It's a feeling that I can't really explain. It's sometimes it makes me emotional seeing really old people as well. The elderly people come up to it and be like, "Wow, what's this?" They want to take pictures. They stand in front of it for half an hour just taking tons of selfies and all these things. And there's definitely this emotional reaction that I get seeing this and witnessing this. I don't know about Jacob. I think you probably feel the same. Huh?
Also, from there, I also think there's a certain curse to designers. Like we know every eighth of an inch of this car, of this design, every undercut, surfaces that people will never see, and we were sweating over them. And I would love to not know the car and see it, afresh, somebody from the public, just see the whole thing done, that animal finished. They say the same about Paris, right? Like you see Paris only once, like for the first time, where you have that that huge impression. I would love to forget the whole process and just see it so pristine and just that innocent. But it's also on the other side, it's also amazing to know all the intricate, tiny pieces, millimeters on the design that not many people will see, and we really had to take care of every eighth of an inch on the car. Yeah. And also, it's very unique to have a design project where the designer did the interior and the exterior. One person designed the interior and the exterior. Normally at OEMs, it's divided into two teams, so you have certain disconnection. And I think also that adds to the Apollo appeal. Also, that it was done by single team, single designer.
I have seen people make comments on that. That really helps. So you can work with the right suppliers and work with a fluid design. You can tell that whatever happened in the rear, makes sense in the front. And you guys, obviously, it's just the two of you guys get to tackle that. Can I ask if you were to, Joe, if you were to spec an Apollo IE, what is your color combination?
You want to answer this one, Jacob?
The whole everybody at Apollo knows, and it's black and gold.
Ah, okay. So like the Black Dragon.
Yeah, similar to that. Probably not in the satin. I kind of like, we spent a lot of time working on how the reflections behaved on this car while it was moving. So I kind of want to see some gloss in the body. Yeah.
Is
The
there,
satin also good.
would you keep this spec for all the future designs as well? Is that your like black and gold is forever?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, black primarily. It's kind of, I don't know what it is. I've just always been attached to that color, and it's a bit depressing, I know, but it's just who I am, I think. Yeah.
Joe, is your car black? Your car that you drive today?
Yes.
That's good. Okay.
They've all been
That's
black,
good.
pretty much. Yeah.
It is something about a black car which always just shows something. It's a beautiful way to look at a car. And what about you, Jakob? What would you do if for?
I would go for, and actually might sound funny, especially that we have an American audience, but I would go American Air Force spec, like a F-22, F-35, kind of like stealthy gunmetal gray satin, but also two-tone. Like on my background, I think a full black hides, I know why Joe loves it, but I think it also hides one of the freshest design features for me, which is the kind of two-tone or dual structure of the car. You have that, like the white panels on the image behind me. To me, it almost represents like the skin of a shark, and then the carbon elements almost like an exoskeleton. So you have that kind of bio and mechanical in one. It's I love that, and I understand that Joe wants it all black, but I would definitely split into the two-tone character of the car.
Yeah.
Well, with only 10 being built, I think it's going to be very interesting to see how all 10 are actually going to, be finished. And I can't say that the one will be really alike. And that's, you guys are even making a left-hand, drive or a right-hand drive. They're so rare within even wherever they're going. Hopefully one day we'll get to see them all, joined together. Maybe when I'm very old and maybe someone's wheeling in a wheelchair at Pebble Beach, we'll get to see the 10 unite together. It'll be something special. But it's interesting. You guys have very different tastes.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that you mentioned the customers. I never expected that it's going to be such a big part of it also, especially it's only 10 of them. Like to explore that design with the customers and speccing for the customers, it's awesome. So shout out to the customers. A lot of fun, and also so far the customers we have, they also are very similar to Norman in terms of like really understanding the art. Like they really get it. There's no need for any explanation. They just get it. I'm so happy.
Yeah, the way the specs are. Sorry, Evan. Yeah.
No, go for it. Yeah.
I just want to say the way the way these specs are with the IEs are just, it's really such an extension of themselves, and they're not afraid about this. They don't care. It's kind of like a car. This is, I don't care what you think. This is me. It's an extension of me, and this is my art, and it's in the form of wheels. For me, that's like, it's super exciting to see people like Barry and Michael to be able to have that kind of no limit opportunity to create these as their own. It's so unique, so marvelous. And us for a brand to be able to kind of allow this persona come through the vehicle, it's also very amazing. And I think we're very unique in that sense, and we're very kind of rare to be able to open this to be so kind of extensive in the way we allow our customers to go. And in the end, they're so happy with the car. It just makes total sense for us to kind of just keep doing that and keep allowing our clients to really express themselves.
It's so interesting because only 10 cars, and they have that that crazy canvas of the IE, and like what you're gonna do, And then when we go into the speccing process, it's really fascinating. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
What about you, Evan?
Oh my gosh, I always think about others, but sometimes I never really put a lot of thought into it. I've always thought that blue carbon fiber is the most flattering color over exposed carbon, and I'm excited to see that hopefully with one of the 10. I've always thought that it's a super classic, probably blue carbon, black wheels, blue interior. probably most my style. There's a couple cars in Japan that have inspired me as my favorite editions of some hypercars, and he's probably a secret man and a mysterious one, but his thing is blue, and I think I love blue. It's this color of the sky when the sun is shining, and I think that would be fun to see. So we'll see what else. Even the white looks like a stormtrooper with the contrast of the black carbon. I've even said white would be probably a really sharp choice with the red interior. I think it was once a showpiece at some point, but I can't wait to see what others, after all 10 are done. Maybe there'll be a debut online to show what all 10 did. But very fun. And could you say, Jakob, do you have like a favorite car or like class?
Favorite car of all times?
Yeah, possibly.
I think the wedge prototypes from the 70s, the Italian stuff. I think the super early prototype of the Countach and the Stratos ZF. I think the wedges from the 60s, 70s. It didn't come back in that way nowadays. So that's probably the highlight for me. The wedges from the 60s, 70s. What about you, Joe? Shark.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. This is it's a very difficult question, and I don't really have a favorite. Throughout the period of car design, there's always very fascinating design pieces that come out through every generation. So it's hard to just single out one.
It's very true, because that's like when I'm talking about the wedges, almost like perspective of my childhood. Like it's just like I remember as a child saying I love them, but now from perspective of being in the industry, you just see so much more. You look at the car and you know who worked on it, what era was it, why is it like this. It's very difficult to judge.
Yeah, I think the story for me is very important as well for the car, and the history of why that design came to light and what was involved in doing it. I think that plays a very important role to understand, to kind of define the favorite for me as well. So I find it very interesting. All of them are very interesting, particularly the 60s stuff as well. The great American kind of automotive era of that time. It was fascinating to see all these crazy designs. Were just like, wow, leading the world with design and technology.
Fascinating. So I've always thought about this, so designers have one mindset and then engineers have to do their job. So to skin and, get the two to work together and to be no compromise is a challenge. You guys as a company partnered with HWA in a Falterbach, which is, a world-renowned automotive facility, almost iconically, supporting Mercedes-Benz, AMG, and Motorsport, and Hans Alfrecht, who founded one of the founding fathers of AMG. They have such strong and I should say strict requirements for precision and engineering, and it's all about power, and you guys go in there and want to make such an edgy design. Was that a challenge for you guys to work together in synchronization, at that point, to work with HWA after all the years of them kind of asking to start from scratch in a sense?
I think, Jacob, you're probably more intimately involved in this process. So.
Yeah, I think the big thing for me with HWA was that, because of the legacy and the history, I felt that we can really push it from day one. We can really, from the design side, challenge them. We didn't have to water down any of Joe's design, and it was we were torturing each other. The design was super challenging, and Germans do it in a very precise way. So that was a challenge, but we knew we could push them. And I think also from our experience with Joe, you just have to push the engineers. I think they do their best work when you push them, when you give them something really hard to solve. So from the design side, the complexity of the IE was, I think, perfect. Just really push them to the limit, and not slow down. But I think also only they could pull it off. That quality of the final item, that racing pedigree, and that design on top. I mean, it's just great.
I think I've said this before in another interview we did. I think certain cars should be, to be designed and built, in Italy, have this kind of special, maybe it's the air that the designers breathe to make their cars so beautiful, and maybe it's the air you guys breathe, but also to work with people in Germany who are very focused on top tier engineering. Maybe it's in their beer or. It must be tough to sometimes work with other cultures, perhaps. So, you guys are, I think, a very international company. You guys work with people from all around the world, and you guys speak the common language, which is cars, but to work together, it must be a challenge in a sense.
Yeah, I think we are so, let's say, fortunate not to be kind of just stuck in this studio all day, every day for, years on end or whatever. We're really exposed into this, the supplier network, and, working with these engineers hands-on and very intimately. And, it's kind of a blessing for me and Jacob to kind of really experience these individuals and these cultures firsthand, to really understand how, okay, then the Germans work like this, the Italians work like this, the US works like this. So we're able to then, as designers, develop some kind of workflow that kind of complements these different types of working styles. So, we have to always think about our approach and how do we tailor our kind of activities to then enable a thoroughly well engineered and thought out product and result at the end. So for us, it's, we take all these things into account, and it's not just our workflow is the best. No, we'll actually think about what others are doing and how do we then optimize this process together. And thankfully, for us, we've always had the privilege and the opportunity to work with some really amazing people that kind of just didn't want anything else apart from the success of this product in the end of it. And we were blessed in this way that these individuals are extremely hardworking, and the kind of the team ethics and during the processes were really incredible, really dynamic. We're very fortunate to have worked with these people so far, and we've worked with so many, like globally, all these suppliers. We've not really had so much struggle. I think the kind of the chemistry in cars maybe that bring us together, it kind of solves some of the difficult situations. We did have stressful times, but that was mainly because of the timeline. But other than that, there was really not much tension between the design and engineering processes. Don't know if you agree as well, David.
Yeah, I remember just funny the thing you mentioned about, like, I think when people seen the first presentation of the design, and the engineers had the first look at what it will be. Yes, on the one side, after the meetings, they were coming and they were telling me, like, tell Joe to make it a bit easier, because it's not possible. Like, we will not be able to make this. This is too extreme. But I think also on the other side, what Joe mentioned, they really wanted to prove that they can do it. And now we're actually building them. It's amazing, and the design is so honest to the original sketches. It's fantastic. Mm-hmm. So that passion, engineering, and recognizing that it's tough, but like if you have such a big challenge in front of you, you really want to prove yourself. And I think the engineers that we met, they delivered.
Mm-hmm. Always.
HWA is also iconically known and associated with the CLK GTR, an icon of of our generation. For them to build this car and build the CLK GTR, that's a pretty exciting and important thing to mention. I think both these cars are kind of symbiotic in a sense. And have you guys seen the two of them together before?
Yes.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, we've seen them at Goodwood, right?
Yes, Goodwood, yeah. But I believe Norman also saw it. What is it? Is it at the Dubai or is it Saudi? I can't remember.
But it's fantastic. I mean, just hyper low, massive, long, wide beasts. It's fantastic, and yeah, you almost have like, you know, that it's just unbelievable. It's undescribable. You know, you have that all the legacy of the CLK and the IE, and just, you know, like that. You think about all the years in between them, but that, you know, the same inspiration. I mean, it's crazy. The GT1, I think that was like when we had those kind of conversations with the, you know, the team, with Ryan, with Joe, with Norman, like that Le Mans era. I think to us it was like, you know, this was where it looked like they were breaking the rules and making some really extreme things. And since then, we kind of felt like it went into, like, instead of breaking the rules or trying to break the rules, they kind of boxed themselves in rules, and it was not as exciting. So we thought it would be cool to look at that and you know, bring something in a new way back from that kind of, you know, break the rules, extreme approach.
Absolutely.
What kind of advice do you guys would you give to someone who wants to get involved in automotive design, be in your shoes? What would you want to say?
It's, you know, as a designer in the automotive space, it's a incredibly challenging and competitive environment. You know, you have to live, breathe, and eat design all day, every day. You know, every hour of your day.
I have to stop you, Joe. At the beginning of the Apollo project, we had to refine the early design stages. Joe lost half of his body weight in like 3 weeks. Ryan, our manager, both him and I had vitamin D deficiency. Like, we had to, like, I'm not sure about Ryan, but I had to go and get like vitamin D injections. We were like, you have to love it. It's,
yeah,
especially on projects like this, like when you have to, you know, as a small team and you have to deliver something really extreme, it's, you know, maybe the game or.
Yeah, for us, it's, you know, we don't have this, you know, we don't have this kind of invisible curtain of, you know, tens of millions of pounds to spend on design activities, and you just roll into the studio, do your thing, and go home. No, we're actually, you know, right from the beginning and to the end. And, you know, and as a designer, you have to be prepared for every kind of situation. You know, you don't want to do wheels. Well, tough luck. You're going to have to do the wheels. You know, you don't want to do the headlights. Well, tough. You're going to have to do the headlights as well. You know, you have to do everything. So you have to carry that, and to be able to understand, you know, some level of homologation and kind of real world challenges in order to get that product onto the road and to the consumer. This is a really important thing, because I see a lot of stylists these days that don't really think about what is this for, you know, where's the market in this? You know, these are real life questions that in order to make a design successful, tangible and sustainable, you know, you have to then also look at this, you know, to be able to deviate from this competitive space and to be able to back up your product and say, this is going to work, you know, this is going to sell. I think, yeah, having some more of an entrepreneurial mindset in the approach of design helps a lot. I think it better prepares you then to be a more effective designer and to be able to design more effective products and people are going to love. And, you know, skills, the enablement of technology these days, you know, anyone can really have the same skills. You know, you spend enough time to it.
Imagine having an iPad 6-7 years ago. I mean, it's the tools nowadays are amazing. So invest in your tools and pursue newest software, newest tools. Like this is never ending, right, Joe? We're always looking at what's ahead digitally. Yeah.
You have to live in that kind of realm that doesn't exist yet, and you have to pretend that you're living there because it's so tough, it's so competitive with what we do. You really have to arm yourself and enable yourself with the best weapons that you have, you can get hold of. Take advantage of everything, you know, social media platforms, whatever it is, YouTube, doesn't matter.
I think for design, maybe I think LinkedIn is dead. Like, add us and add, you know, anybody that you're interested from the industry on Instagram. Just find us on Instagram. Don't use LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn is dead by now. But also, if there's any people that would like to go into design listening in, then get in touch on Instagram. It's very cool to talk to the youngsters, and I guess we're not old, but it's cool to speak to the people who still study.
Yeah, no, we've seen it all. You know, right from the paper to the supplier, to the production to then the client, all this process we're intimately involved in. So, we're very experienced in all these areas. So get in touch and ask away. More than happy to help.
Very fun. I have a question that just came in from actually a gentleman who's getting one of your very special cars. How much engineering do you have as a designer? How much knowledge, let's say, Jakob, do you have in the engineering side, to understand, because it's quite technical in a sense. From
university or college, there's a big difference. Like, we don't really look into it that much. That's why I guess we with Joe were lucky that we were really learning on the job. Joe was at McLaren and at university, even before we graduated. So, and then just, engaging with the engineers. And I mean, we were spending 14, 16 hours a day with the engineers, like really, side by side. Also, the kind of very heavy moments in the project, CFD results, aerodynamic results daily and stuff like this. So you really, learn on the job. I think that's the only way. And that stuff is also changing so quick, it's the tools we've seen, even that we didn't have at the beginning of the Apollo project, and we were really using at the end of the project, even in terms of engineering and CFD simulations, for example, it's changing so quick. You just have to be, with the freshest, hottest engineers and just work with them closely and learn on the job.
Yeah, we're saying that, Jacob's always, very exposed in this realm. We get tons of technical information that Jacob has to filter through and kind of understand what all this mean, and throughout time. It was really at the first few years, in the beginning it was dumped right in front of our desk, so to speak, and then we had to then decipher, like a code. And then, over time, okay, so this means that, this means this, and I guess, for Jacob and I, we're very lucky then, to then have so much exposure in the engineering realm that it kind of enables us, section by section to really optimize the design, for improvements or whatever, from the prototype stages. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, yes. And also I think very important personal experience was for me that the engineers, you had some of the engineers that were like, I know best, I did it so many times, I know everything. And these guys, we actually seen them not advancing as much as the guys who came and like, the engineers who said, I want to learn too, or sometimes I don't know, and let's find out together. Let's simulate more, let's try in a different way. I don't know yet. Let's sit down and think about it. These guys that were also trying to learn, even with a ton of experience themselves, that they still wanted to, be pushed by the design, learn something new, simulate in a different way. Like these were the guys that pushed it more. At the end of the project, they knew more, and they delivered more than the guys that were like, I did it all. I'm a engineer with so many years. Like the guys who were more open-minded and were learning on the job were much better, in my opinion.
Yeah, those who want to pursue to enable kind of like the way the IE looks as much as possible, whilst making it work as optimally and as efficiently as possible, with the highest level of performance as possible. Those guys were really the ones were chasing this to become a reality, and then we were dragged on with the process. We had to learn because we were supplying the surface design as well for some of these engineering parts, and at the same time, we get to have this exposure and understand. Okay, we have to design it like this because otherwise the car is not going to look like this on the exterior. So we were trying new methods into enabling the design and the way it looks. Yes, it was a tremendous kind of like a learning curve for both us as the designers and also the engineers at the same time. So it was a really cool collaboration together for this car.
Yeah. And engineering is evolving as quickly as design. So it's always looking ahead and looking to the new and learning new stuff, and solving new problems.
And maybe this is a question, if it's too technical. One wants to know, why did you guys not have active aero? In a sense, that's sometimes all this active aero that's on design on cars is sometimes for show, is being fixed. Is there any reasoning behind that?
You want to go, Joe, or should I go?
Yeah, well, one of the primary reasons, IE is somewhat, inspired by nature or things from an organic nature. And what we wanted to do, or what we tried to do, was kind of like, not integrate so much moving things, but how do we optimize that body in a way to perform as it is, while saving weight and having those panels just to purely just perform as they are. So for me, kind of, having these active aero stuff was kind of a distraction in some areas that it just made things a little bit more complex and heavy, and there was further investment in it as well. So, okay, so how do we minimize this then into something that's fixed, that has the same performance, it's much lighter and it works better, right? And the IE is not really something about straight line kind of speed kind of car anyway. It's more of a tracked weapon and a need to perform
balance and corners.
Yeah, exactly, all that stuff. Yeah, all that balance. And for me, for the brief for the IE was really just to create it as honest as possible, and for everything to kind of be exploited and optimized as much as possible with design.
Yeah, and also what I'm not sure if a lot of people realize, but a lot of what we call active aero is really just an air brake. It's a drag creating element where it's really useful only at braking. And like Joe mentioned, the IE was designed to be kind of very analog, very viral, raw experience, and so that balance was fixed on the car. It's very balanced aero experience and very balanced aggressive driving style. So that's why we didn't pursue that way, but I guess we might say something about this in the future also.
Yeah.
Well, I have to say I'm a fanboy myself, but I'm quite excited. I know that behind the scenes you guys are working on designs that are as radical and different, and it must be quite fun for you guys to know what's going on behind the scenes and creating the future. And what does it feel like as well to create a legacy? I mean, you guys are, I think, for a lifetime, these cars will live on. Your work is going to always be here. Is there some kind of something you want to leave in the world in a sense? Very deep, I know, maybe too deep for us to get into, but I think what you guys are creating is something that is history. So that's kind of
it is. It's especially if you go to Goodwood or Pebble Beach and you see a car that Ferrari was driving before he established the Ferrari company, or 100-year-old cars and stuff like this, and you just think, wow, this car is going to stay here, when I'm gone. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. And I think the 10 IEs, they will definitely stay alive for a long time. Yeah,
and adding to that, is just really, for me, inspiring the next generation of maybe creatives and artists and car designers, and try to, pursue the same paths as we are doing, to ensure that kind of the passion in automotive stays alive, and such extreme products will continue to live. We're entering a more of a digital world now, where some of these experiences can be replaced, are no longer really that interested anymore. We have games like Forza. The IE had a tremendous impact on Forza. It was trending like crazy, and everybody was wanting to win the race in order to get hold of the Apollo IE. So we are seeing this passion also kept alive in areas like these, which is also nice to see as well. People resharing the photography sessions of the Apollo IE on Forza or something, an example. So yeah, for me, I think the more important thing is just continue to inspire and to ensure that our industry and our profession kind of is sustainable and can sustain itself in the next generations. That's really it for me.
Well, we have one more. We have a great question that came from Zachary. He says, did the aerodynamics drive the design or vice versa? Did you account for the circular values? Sounds like a pretty neat question. Do you understand the question, Jakob?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. This car was CFD driven. I would say, there's a very easy way to do CFD it's probably like what we were fighting against, which is that kind of, that Le Mans LMP1 class that we see now. It's a kind of very blocky aerodynamics, very, very easy to simulate. Engineers love it. And so we definitely try to, keep the principles, but also push it, and try some new things. And there's also, even though with all the, modern simulations and the software getting better, the best aerodynamics guys that we work with, they still had enough respect to say, like, aerodynamics really is black magic. So whatever is the simulation, it's still different on the track. So we definitely pushed the styling to the limit together with the CFD. So they were kind of side by side development. We didn't give one priority. We were really kind of side by side. And I think, Joe, you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the car itself is kind of based on teardrop shapes in general as well. That's kind of that kind of gives an element of how aero focused it's meant to be. But the car also has a lot of performance. In a lot of places where it needs cooling and where heat needs to be extracted out as well. So we do try and aim to provide kind of the best aerodynamic principles and properties, but at the same time we also have to think about, okay, how efficient will it be to extract air from here? For example, opening the wheels completely to let the turbulence of that build up in that wheel arch escape much easier, and then the back end is completely kind of just more or less exposed. We have a ton of heat in there that we want to get rid of, and how do we create these vacuum areas where it's going to just pull heat out from the rear? So there's a lot of shapes on this car, but there's a lot of thought behind what's underneath kind of the skin as well, and how air is going through different little pockets to cool certain areas and provide those performance metrics and values that we needed to aim for. So it's pretty complex, actually, when you think about it. Yeah, like it's black magic. Everyone. Yeah. We have different results from different people, but more or less the same kind of direction. But the values deviate from supply to supply, so you don't know for sure 100%.
And some of the drastic CFD decisions were, I think only a brand and a team like Apollo can do what Joe mentioned about the wheels. We really expose the wheels. I guess nobody's still matching us in this, and I think nobody will come close. Like really exposing the tires, the wheels, releasing the pressure from the wheel arches. There are big challenges of doing that, but I'm really happy we went that direction. A really brave decision in terms of CFD and performance and I guess brand also.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, this has been a really fantastic discussion. Really diving deep into the IE and your history of design. I'm excited to see the future ahead, and that's quite exciting. I can't wait to see you guys when the world is in a little bit of a healthier and better place, but that will be soon.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see you. For sure.
Yeah, we thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for your passion and your fine art, and we hope to all that were listening today. Thank you again for joining us, and if you haven't seen an IE, please message us. We might be able to make that happen for you. We've been fortunate to have some one can be seen. But thank you, everyone. Thank you, guys, Jakob and Joe, for being with us. We hope to see you all soon for another episode of our fun speaker series. Guys, thank you.
Thank you, Evan. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Stay safe. Stay healthy. Hope to see you in the future, everyone.
See you soon.
See you soon.